All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, I am coming to you to offer my take on the debate. Yes, I know it is a day late, but I think I'm going to get this right and put it into perspective because there are renewed calls for Christie to get out of the race. Guys, let me start off by just offering this real quick. This was the best debate. This was the debate that mattered most, the GOP debate that mattered most. Quite frankly, if this was the debate that happened first, I think Ron DeSantis would be in a much better position than he is right now. Megyn Kelly should have been a moderator at all of the debates, or at least someone like her. Again, DeSantis started off slow in this debate, but he finished very strong. We'll get into that. Vivek was the Nikki Haley slayer. So was Ron DeSantis to some extent, but I think Vivek really played a role in this debate, and I think he was a beast at doing that. I think he destroyed Nikki Haley. We'll get into that. Nikki Haley performed well with the zingers. She seemed to take the onslaught of both Vivek and DeSantis at the beginning of the debate, but she fell off pretty quickly. And Christie, it is Christie to call it quits like right now, like yesterday. The only thing that he did was play this high and mighty role, answer the question. He lied about his own policy on the child trans issue. So we need to talk about that. He promoted a book, and he's not doing anything but helping Donald Trump. He's not hurting him. All right, all of this and more in this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. All right, guys, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. All right, and all things social media. You can find me at the Carl Jackson Show. All right, we're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on True Social, Getter, Facebook. So anywhere you go to find me on social media at the Carl Jackson Show. Now, again, I realize that I had a crazy day yesterday, so I did not get to do this podcast. I wanted to make sure that I put it out there so it was at least on record. With some of the new news that has come out in light of this, there are renewed calls for both Christie and both Vivek Ramaswamy to step out or to get out of the race. Many people are wanting that the alternate to Trump to pop up. I don't see it that way per se. I see it as, listen, Christie and Vivek at this point don't stand a shot. I mean, you're about a month out of the Iowa caucuses. It doesn't make any sense at this point. However, again, I will say I appreciate what Vivek did. We've got a lot of audio that I want to play for you. But I will tell you straight up, I'm not no holds barred about this. Nikki Haley, in my opinion, should not be the president of the United States. She should not be a vice presidential pick for President Trump or anyone else for that matter. And I think it was on display on the stage. I think Vivek and DeSantis took it to Nikki Haley like no one's business. Again, I think Megyn Kelly was the perfect moderator. Man, has this chick, just revamped her career like nobody's business. I mean, she used to be, at least to me, seemingly more moderate to conservative, somewhere in between sometimes on some issues, kind of go to the liberal front. But I tell you what, she was the perfect moderator for this debate. There are more questions I wish would have been asked in different questions, but nonetheless, this was the best debate. I'm sure in part because the field has whittled down, but also because Megyn Kelly did a good job of answering questions that conservatives were interested in. The RNC is a complete and utter disaster with Ronna McDaniel. With Ronna McDaniel running it. This has been part of my frustration with the former President Donald Trump. I know some of you guys hate to hear that, but that is the truth of the matter. I think former President Donald Trump would have been better served had he endorsed Harmeet Dillon as the RNC chair, because I don't think that Ronna McDaniel has done a good job for the RNC. I don't think she did so under Trump. I don't think she's doing so now. I think she needs to go, as evidenced by the next couple of debates that are going to be hosted by CNN. A lot of people are giving Vivek credit for calling this out. Conservatives have been calling this out for years. I'm sorry, that's nothing new. What Vivek is saying is nothing new. The way he's able to communicate, he says it loudly, he says it boldly, he says it in ways that are just great for social media, but it's something that conservatives have been saying for years with the RNC. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing to me that you will put our candidates in front of people that would absolutely try and take him down. But here's what I'm going to try to do in this podcast. And I have I hold no punches when it comes to this. Again, I don't think Nikki Haley, I think, in my opinion, Nikki Haley and Chris Christie are Democrats. They're Democrats 20 years ago. That's what they are. And I don't think the times call for a moderate. I think we need people that have strong convictions, that have a backbone of steel, that are willing to go into the White House, whether that's Trump, whether it's a DeSantis. And I'm sorry for those of you that say DeSantis is weak. No, he's not. I think DeSantis may be slightly autistic. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to be mean. But there is something different about him. I mean, the guy, when it comes to legislation, he is totally, I mean, he does what he says. Whatever he says, you don't have to worry about him not doing it. That's what I love about DeSantis. That's why I can't stand, even though I love Trump, when I see so many people just demolish this guy, because I'm like, listen, if the left, which they are trying to do, if they take out Donald Trump, because it is no accident that Trump's big Washington, D.C. trial starts the day after Super Tuesday, all right? That's by design. We all know that. That's not an accident. I think that we should have a plan B. That is on me. And beyond that, I don't think that we should destroy DeSantis because, listen, 2028, even though I will say this, I think it's going to be, you think it's an uphill battle now? Guys, get ready for what's going to happen in 2024. I think we're going to see absolute chaos. And there's no telling where America will be in 2028. But just in case, I don't think you want to destroy the best conservative that we have to offer. I just refuse to buy into that. Some people hate me for it. You don't get a lot of clicks by saying that, but that is the truth. All right, now, without any further ado, let's run through these videos. Oh, actually, let me just share with you the arguments that are popping up now, because this broke today. There are renewed calls again for Vivek and Christie to hop out of the race, to get out of the race. And some of you are saying, why Vivek? Why Vivek? You know, first off, let me just give you my takes on. Let me do this. Let me start somewhere different, and then we'll just run through these videos real quick. So let me give you my take on Vivek during this debate. I loved what Vivek did to Nikki Haley. I think he slayed Nikki Haley in this debate. I think DeSantis did the same. I think let's see how do I word this. The difference between Vivek and DeSantis is DeSantis has the record. Vivek has better talking points and rhetoric. He's far better, the best communicator that I have seen on the Republican stage, and God knows how long. The guy is just good. He knows how to frame a sentence. He knows how to make his point. He does it in sound bites, which is very important for this era. There's no doubt about it. But the things that he said, I wish DeSantis was skilled enough to say this. The things that Vivek argues DeSantis has done, he's done. Now, albeit for the state of Florida, not on a national level, but I think what he's done for Florida shows that he could and would be willing to do it on a national level. Obviously, it would be harder. You give the advantage to Trump. Trump has been there, done that. No doubt about it. But I think there are some issues that, quite frankly, DeSantis is stronger on than Trump. And I think the same is true for Trump. That's why I want to see them. But Vivek, in my opinion, his ability to get under the feathers of Nikki Haley in this debate were absolutely phenomenal, in my opinion. And I think that's why he was. I think that he served his purpose well. I don't think he's needed in the race anymore, but I think he served his purpose well. His clarifying arguments are from the right, from the populist movement of the right. I think that's extremely important because it forces, even if there's not a lot of substance to it, like I've heard people criticize, him throwing up that sign, Nikki equals corrupt. All right, it's childish, it's juvenile. But you know what that does? It's a snapshot. It's a snapshot. Some people, let's just be real, all right? Let's just be real. Some people, when they watch the debate, that's probably all they're going to walk away with. Nikki is corrupt. And if they get that in their mind, I'm okay with that. Now, I don't believe that Nikki Haley is corrupt. I do believe that Nikki Haley is extremely, extremely weak. I mean, they exposed her on trans issue, on corporatism, on censorship, big government, immigration, you name it. Nikki Haley is probably one of the most, if not the most moderate to Democrat leaning. Frankly, I think she's a Democrat. I mean, she's a Democrat with the Republican moniker. I'm sorry. This is not the time for a George W. Bush type candidate. It just isn't. We're not in the same place that we were, 15, 20 years ago. We're just not. And I'm sorry. I think the left would run all over her. Plus, she plays identity politics, which Vivek called her out for, which is very just not good. Vivek has a tendency to say what others are thinking. He says it in plain language. He says it out loud, so that resonates with people. I'm appreciative of that. But also, here's my problem with Vivek. He said a lot of different things just a year ago. I'm not taking the chance on a Vivek. And I think a lot of people are doing the same. A lot of people don't like the way he's come out and attacked the candidates. And in some instances, I think that's good. In some instances, I think that's, bad, and I don't necessarily mind it. When he talked about the other night that all these candidates licked the boots of Donald Trump, well, let's be honest. Vivek has been sniffing the farts of Donald Trump, all right? He's run a campaign where basically it's like, I'm going to kiss Trump's butt all that I can, either to be a part of his administration, a VP maybe, or just part of the administration, or at best to make sure that I garner support from his followers so that I can continue to build my own platform. And I think that's been Vivek's modus operandi. I mean, this is a guy that still has ties to China. However, what he does on the stage oftentimes is phenomenal. And frankly, I loved the way he called out Vivek. Oh my goodness. And frankly, I love the way he called out Nikki Haley in this last debate. So he does serve his purposes. I love his communication skills. He just recently started voting Republican. Before that, he voted Democrat. He has some issues with his company, Roy Vant. I know he stepped out or stepped aside in order to let other people run it and run for the presidency, but he's still making money from these Chinese subsidiaries that are his companies, basically. So I'm just not, whatever. When it comes to Vivek, love what he's able to do on the stage. I'm not going to trust him in the White House. Just no, not right now. Let's see him build his resume as far as conservatism is concerned. I want to see where Vivek is 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line. Then we can talk about Vivek. Christie is an absolute joke. Listen, I listened to a local radio host yesterday talking about Christie and giving him kudos for his ability to go after DeSantis and tell him, answer the question, answer the question, answer the question. Meanwhile, on the stage, he tried to deceive people when Megyn Kelly asked him a question about a transgender bill, a child transgender bill that he helped to get started in 2017. I think ultimately, if I recall correctly, it was Bill Murphy in 2018 signed the legislation, but Christie started that gravy train. He was part of that gravy train. So it's kind of misleading what he was saying. Then he defended Nikki Haley. So he defended the biggest moderate on the stage. And honestly, I'm just like, okay. He promoted his book on the stage, and I'm like, okay, maybe you should have just done that early. He serves no purpose. He's just taking points from people that hate Donald. All right, a few points from people that just say, hey, I hate Donald Trump and I'm never Donald Trump. Meanwhile, you've done nothing to hurt Donald Trump's campaign. If anything, Christie has bolstered Donald Trump's campaign. Here's where it is. Here's where things stand with Donald Trump. You either love him, you either hate him, or you might be an independent in the middle that's like, hey, I don't like Trump. But I don't like Biden. I don't like what's going on. If I have to hold my nose and vote for Trump or a Republican, I'll do. That's where the field is. That's just where it is. So Christie is having no impact, no impact on that whatsoever. And as the left continues to persecute Donald Trump, I wish I would have had you play this clip of comedian Bill Burr. But as the left continues to persecute Donald Trump, all that happens is more people gravitate towards him. Now, I don't believe the polls. I do believe. Let me say this. I do believe that Donald Trump has a significant lead in the polls. I do not believe that Donald Trump is up by 40 points. And I'm not saying this because, it's an attack on Trump. I hate that. I hate that you can't offer any nuance to the conversation. Even though I love Donald Trump, I can't offer any criticisms or nuance without getting attacked. It's insane, but this is where we are. So be it. But I'm a we the people guy, so I want to make sure that no one is blowing smoke up your butt. Here's the danger in my opinion, in fake polling. And I do believe, listen, guys, there's no way you're going to watch these debates. There's no way you're going to get a DeSantis going to 99 counties in Iowa and the polls don't budge. That's not going to happen. That doesn't even make sense. So I do believe that Trump is ahead and by a significant margin. All right. Insurmountable or not, I don't know. 40 points ahead, absolutely not. I just don't believe that, and I think it's not wise for Trump supporters to believe that, because I think people tend to get lazy, and I think people tend to say, "Well, if he's got it in the bag," you know what I'm saying? You don't do that. You don't play games with freedom like that. And I believe that some of these pollsters, quite frankly, I've been clicking on Real Clear Politics, looking at their methodology. I saw one pollster. I don't want to name them because I forget who, but they were taking polls, registered voters, and what they were offering to Real Clear Politics still had literally like 12 names on it, and it was just registered voters. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're considering this poll for the average? You have Trafalgar, which I tend to trust, a 1.45% response rate, which means that 98.55% of people that he tried to get to respond to his poll, one of the better pollsters in the business, didn't have anything to do with him. So I'm like, don't pay attention to these polls. Go out and fight for your guy. Your guy is Trump. Go out and fight for him. Your guy is DeSantis. You go out and fight for him. That's what you need to do. All right. But Vivek, in my opinion, has served his purpose. Time to drop out. Christie has done nothing, has accomplished nothing as far as hurting Donald Trump. Right now, it's just ego. Again, he promoted a book. He defended Nikki Haley, and he misled or lied about his influence in a child trans bill in 2017. Adios. I don't know why you're still in the race, Christie, because you're not doing anything, quite frankly. All right, now, Nikki Haley, she started off very strong, clever zingers to take on the onslaught from DeSantis and Ramaswamy, but you saw her fade as the jabs kept coming. From Ramaswamy, more jabs from DeSantis. I mean, she tried to call DeSantis a hypocrite, so on, etc. What DeSantis did effectively is hurt Nikki Haley on finally on his legislation, bills that he signed. So she was talking the game. He was finally using his record effectively to basically say, Nikki Haley, listen, you're talking this good game. I've done it. And then when she tried to catch him on lies, he was like, what are you talking about? I've done it. I've signed the bill. And she just looked like a fool. She looked very uncomfortable when Vivek Ramaswamy asked her about the regions in Ukraine. And listen, let's be honest, 95% of us wouldn't be able to name that, wouldn't say Crimea or Donbass or Donetsk, or I forget how you pronounce that. 98% of us would not be able to do that unless you're paying attention to this stuff all the time. And it is the bigger principles that matter. But a person like Nikki Haley, you can imagine, and I think she ended up asking or answering a couple of places, if I read correctly. I didn't see her do it, but I think someone said she did it under her breath, Crimea, and she said another region or whatever. I didn't see it happen, but someone wrote about it that I trust, so I'll believe that. But anyway, it looked bad because what Vivek is so good at is being so bold with his wording and putting Nikki Haley on defense. You literally saw her shrink down at that point. You literally saw her shrink down. So this is a lady. She is a corporatist. It was proven on that stage. You can go to, I went to go see what DeSantis was talking about, her pro-trans issue. She did, in fact, say that in an interview. I hadn't seen that before. She was in Iowa caucusing for mass immigration, for people to come in with these big corporations and take take jobs in these corporations based upon merit when we have a wide open border. This lady would be a disaster as president of the United States. And frankly, she shouldn't be vice president because I don't want her to rise to the level of the presidency. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with her being a woman. She also uses identity politics all the time. Vivek Ramaswamy exposed that brilliantly, in my opinion, going after him, talking about, from the last debate, he went after Ronna McDaniel, he went after me. I think he has a woman problem. Guys, identity politics does not belong in the conservative movement or in the constitutional movement. It does not belong here. That is what the left does. That is what Marxists do. That is how fascists, authoritarians divide and conquer us, we the people, and it has no place within the Republican Party, and Nikki Haley uses it all the time. I want to make sure that I'm not missing any notes here. Megyn Kelly was the absolute bomb. Listen, I wish there would have been a few more foreign policy type things, more of actually even more identity politics type questions answered, more questions on the economy, so on, etc. But we all can't get what we want. But here's what I appreciated about Megyn Kelly. She brought this debate to them on from the right. And that's what we needed to see. We needed to see a debate where conservatives were forced to answer conservative questions and the concerns of the conservative populist movement. And that's what Megyn Kelly gave us. So kudos to her. She did herself a great service. Now, I've been talking for a long time. Let's just run these videos through. I'm not even sure we'll play them all at this point, Gabe, but let's just go ahead and roll as many videos as possible, starting with, let's just start wherever you start. Just keep them coming, Gabe.
Mr. Trump, we begin with the question of electability. Governor DeSantis, your campaign and its super PAC have spent the most money, had the most high net worth donors, and had a wave of momentum coming into this race after your big re-election win in Florida. You were seen by many as the candidate most likely to consolidate the non-Trump field. But here we are, a month out from the first real votes, and you haven't managed to do it. In fact, Nikki Haley is beating you in New Hampshire and South Carolina now, and closing in on you in Iowa. Not to mention Trump, who is not only dominating in the early states, but is beating you in Florida by over 30 points. Is it fair to say, as Senator Tim Scott did when he dropped out, that voters are telling you not no, but not now?
So we have a great idea in America that the voters actually make these decisions, not pundits or pollsters. I'm sick of hearing about these polls because I remember those polls in November of 2022. They said there was going to be a big red wave. It was going to be monumental, and that crashed and burned. The one place it didn't crash and burn was in the state of Florida. They weren't predicting that I would win the way I did, and I won the greatest Republican victory in the history of the state of Florida. I'm looking forward to Iowa and New Hampshire. The voters are going to be able to speak, and we're going to earn this nomination. And here's what we need. I am sick of Republicans who are not willing to stand up and fight back against what the left is doing to this country. You've got to be willing to stand strong, and you've got to be willing to beat these people. I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue. We beat the teachers' unions when we did school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat George Soros when we removed 2 of his radical district attorneys. We beat the Democrats on election integrity. I have delivered results. That's what we need for this country. And you have other candidates up here like Nikki Haley. She caves anytime the left comes after her, anytime the media comes after her. I did a bill in Florida to stop the gender mutilation of minors. It's child abuse and it's wrong. She opposes that bill. She thinks it's fine and the law shouldn't get involved with it.
All right, so that was Ron DeSantis, and Gabe will get the next video going here. Again, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcasts: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please review and rate the podcast on both YouTube and Rumble. That'll help us to move up the charts. We would certainly appreciate that. But I appreciated that question from Megyn Kelly. It needed to be answered, and quite frankly, here's what happened. I think that question helped DeSantis for the rest of the debate. I really do. I really do. I hope we have the one of Vivek too, because I really think it helped to focus them and help put them on their game. I don't think she intended to do that, but that was a question that people needed to hear. Listen, man, you've done all of this stuff. You've been in this campaign. You know, your poll numbers were here, and now they're way down here. You haven't made the headway that your campaign claimed you were going to make. Trump is far ahead. Why would you still be in this thing? And guys, I don't trust the polls, just like he doesn't trust the polls. Now, again, caveat, I do believe that Trump has a significant lead. I do not believe that the leads are as big as the pollsters are claiming, because I'm just looking. All you have to do is go to Real Clear Politics, look at the methodology that they're using on these polls, and they're totally a sham. I think a lot of these polls were discredited so badly. Here, let's be honest. You make a lot of money when you jump on the Trump bandwagon. I think it's the easiest thing for them to do. And then as the elections get closer and closer and closer, I suspect the polls will become more accurate because they want to be more accurate ultimately. But right now, I think they just want people to pay attention to them. And I think that's what they're doing. I know that's crazy. A lot of people may not believe that and call it conspiracy theory. I totally believe it. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the polls. I'm looking at their methods. It's like something I've never seen before. These people are desperate. Listen, they make a living off of these polls. They make a living off of these polls, and they've been discredited. After 2020, after 2022, they've been discredited big time. 2023, these special elections. Anyway, let's move on. Next video, por favor, Gabe.
You left government service in 2018 with just $100,000 in the bank. 5 years later, you're reportedly worth $8 million. Thanks to lucrative corporate speeches and board memberships like you had with Boeing. Weeks ago, you met with Wall Street heavyweights, including leaders from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock. Several other billionaire investors are reportedly ready to endorse you, or recently have, all of which comes with expectations. Aren't you too tight with the banks and the billionaires to win over the GOP's working class base, which mostly wants to break the system, not elect someone beholden to it?
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. First I'll tell you, just to respond to Ron, he continues to lie about my record. I actually said his Don't Say Gay bill didn't go far enough because it only talked about gender until the 3rd grade. And I said it shouldn't be done at all, that's for parents to talk about. It shouldn't be talked about with schools. In reference to donors coming on board, look, we will take support from anybody we can take support from. But I have been a conservative fighter all my life. I was a Tea Party candidate when I became governor. We opposed every single corporate bailout we possibly could. We passed tort reform. We passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country. We passed pro-life bills. We moved in unemployment from 11% to 3%. We took on the unions, and we took on Obama when it came to the unions, the Syrian refugees, and everything in between. And so I've had a fight. And so as much as Ron says that, that's not true. But when it comes to these corporate people that want to suddenly support us, we'll take it. But I don't ask them what their policies are. They ask me what my policies are. And I tell them what it is. Sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I am on China. Some don't like the fact that I've signed pro-life bills. Some don't like the fact that I may oppose corporate bailouts. That doesn't matter. That's who I am. And that's why the most conservative grassroots group in the country, Americans for Prosperity.
And here's what you need to know. A lot of the people from Americans for Prosperity are in an uproar. They are totally upset that their organization decided to endorse Nikki Haley. I know some people in Americans for Prosperity. They are not happy about that endorsement whatsoever. The top of the top decided to do it, and they think it's a bad move. Some of them have left the organization as a result of it. Listen, this lady was exposed as a corporatist in this particular in this debate, and nothing short of it. All right, now let's move on to the next question. Very important questions to start the debate by Megyn Kelly.
For months, you campaigned as a unifier. Then you stood up at the first debate and attacked all of your competitors as bought and paid for. The second debate, you changed your tune, saying these are good people on this stage, admitting you can come across as a bit of a know-it-all and rejecting the practice of personal insults. By debate number 3, you called Nikki Haley corrupt, accused Ron DeSantis of wearing high heels, and told Ambassador Haley she should keep a closer eye on her daughter. Can you see how this has led some to conclude you are not, in fact, a unifier, and to question your authenticity?
Megyn, I think there's a time and place for everything. We need somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time. And I'll say that jokingly. Ron DeSantis is a good person, too. I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is. And now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, not the Democratic establishment. Now you have Reid Hoffman, the person who's effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discovered this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world, now supporting Nikki Haley. And to say that doesn't affect her is false, because it's after that meeting later that day that she says that every American needs to be doxxed by having their ID, their government-issued ID, tied to what they say on the internet. So I think that this is far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside with fresh legs from the next generation to unite this country. Not the broken politicians who are puppets of the puppet masters, but the actual people in this country. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. I think it's going to take somebody whose best days in life are still ahead to see a country whose best days are ahead of itself. And I think I can reach that next generation better than anybody else in this race.
Thank you.
I do agree with Vivek that he's done a fantastic job when it comes to social media, reaching a lot of the people on social media. It just has not translated into the polling. It's translated to a lot of fanfare on social media. He's very popular on social media, better than anyone with the young people. Unfortunately, it has not translated whatsoever. But again, his positions in taking on Nikki Haley, I think, are very crucial. I think people underestimate the damage that Vivek Ramaswamy did to Nikki Haley in that debate, along with DeSantis, because she would go again. Vivek coming at her, even though he wouldn't use a bunch of substance, right? He wouldn't. Let's just be real. But Nikki Haley is corrupt. Nikki Haley is a corporatist. And then she would fall back kind of on her heels. And then she would call people, either Vivek is lying, Ron DeSantis is lying. Again, you have DeSantis that would come back with the receipts. Hey, listen, I signed this into legislation. So she really started looking bad. And she was able to give these quick quips, these talking points, these zingers at the beginning of the podcast. And then all of a sudden it was just like, you can tell she was deflated. You can tell, and at first I have to admit, when first DeSantis and Ramaswamy started off, I was like, this is so predictable. You know what I'm saying? They may have to be a little smoother about, no, I was wrong. They wore her out. And it was so obvious by the second half, if not even before, of that debate. All right, let's go ahead and roll the next video, por favor, Gabe.
Okay. Governor Christie.
Really?
Just that.
I'm usually not somebody who gets missed, but okay, let's go.
What's happening? Okay, I got you. Listen, you endorsed Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. You gave him an A for his first term. Since then, however, you've turned on him, calling him a liar, a loser, a con man, and someone who cannot win. You've even said that you got into this race just to stop President Trump. His approval rating with Republicans is currently at 81%. Yours is at 25%. Your best state is New Hampshire, and even there, 2/3 of GOP voters say they would be angry and disappointed if you won. Respectfully, Governor, you have not stopped Mr. Trump, and voters may wonder how you could possibly become the nominee of a party that does not appear to like you very much.
Yeah, well, look, Megyn, it's often very difficult to be the only person on the stage who's telling the truth, and the only person who is taking on what needs to be taken on. I look at my watch now. We're 17 minutes into this debate, and except for your little speech in the beginning, we've had these three acting as if the race is between the four of us. The fifth guy, who doesn't have the guts to show up and stand here, he's the one who, as you just put it, is way ahead in the polls. And yet I've got these three guys who are all seemingly to compete with, Voldemort, he who shall not be named. They don't want to talk about it. The fact is that when you go and you say the truth about somebody who is a dictator, a bully, who has taken shots at everybody, whether they've given him great service or not over time, who dares to disagree with him, then I understand why these three are timid to say anything about it. Maybe it's because they have future aspirations. Maybe those future aspirations are now, or maybe they're 4 years from now. But the fact of the matter is the truth needs to be told. And for us to go 17 minutes without discussing the guy who has all those gaudy numbers you talked about is ridiculous. I'm in this race because the truth needs to be spoken. He is unfit. This is a guy who just said this past week that he wants to use the Department of Justice to go after his enemies when he gets in there. And the fact of the matter is, he is unfit to be president, and there is no bigger issue in this race, Megyn, than Donald Trump, and those numbers prove it.
All right, so that's Chris Christie. I got to be honest with you. I'm so tired of the shtick. Donald Trump is not a dictator. If he was a dictator, he wouldn't have cut taxes while he was in. He wouldn't have left office in 2020. No matter how you feel about the election, he would not have deregulated. He would not have attended NRA meetings, despite the fact that I do think he hurt the Second Amendment a little bit. But thank God that decision got overturned. But in the Supreme Court, but he's not a dictator. That's insane. What I do believe that Donald Trump or anyone else should do, and I believe it's a disqualifier if you don't. I think the Department of Justice, frankly, I think it should be dismantled. But at the very least, I like the idea of totally cutting it down where there's just essential jobs, and that is it. And getting away from the FBI having any type of power to go and arrest and to use weapons. They'd have to communicate or cooperate with local police officers, as Stephen Friends wrote about the IRS whistleblower in the Federalist months ago. But I'm just tired of Chris Christie's shtick. Again, he's not doing anything. Everyone has made up their mind on Donald Trump. Again, they love him, they hate him, they may be somewhere in between, but they look at their pocketbook, and if he's the nominee and he's the choice in November, I think people will vote for him. I do offer that. The reason why I do say I don't like DeSantis being beat up as much as I know some Trumpsters love and hate to hear me say is simply because you need a plan B. He is the best conservative in the race. He's the most conservative person in the race, even more conservative than Donald Trump. You don't destroy that guy. You don't destroy that guy. It's as simple as that to me. But Chris Christie needs to go. At this point, Vivek has served his purpose. He's not gaining ground on the ground. He's not gaining, his popularity on social media. It's just there. All right. It's not translating into actual support on the ground. Anyway. All right. Let's roll the next one. Please, Gabe.
And this shows how hypocritical Ron continues to be. When he was running for governor and they asked him about that, he said he didn't think bathroom bills were a good use of his time. You can go look that up.
I signed a bathroom bill in Florida, so
But
that's
you said-
obviously
no.
not true.
So the idea that you would say that I was
signed
against
it, you
that.
didn't. You killed it, I signed it. I
We
stood up
didn't-
for little girls, you didn't do it. And there was this going on. I was actually just in South Carolina. Some of the legislators told me at the time there were boys going into the girls. That's the
There
whole
were
reason
not.
why they
No,
did
no,
it.
no, no, no.
And so they say when she does that explanation that doesn't hold water. And this is the upstate of South Carolina.
Ron.
I signed the bill. I
Do
protected
you
the
know
girls.
South Carolinians?
She did not do,
you
it.
know
I
South
know that.
Carolinians? Because South Carolina.
And she lied. She lied. She called him a liar. She lied. I went and verified this. I wanted to see the video. She completely said the law shouldn't be involved. This should just be a parental issue. That sounds great unless you get crazy woke behind parents out there that believe in mutilating their children that cannot make solid decisions when they're children. You think your child should make a decision to have a chopatigophomy or destroy a little girl, destroy her vagina where she can never ever have babies? You don't think she will live to regret that, or even have a decent sex life with a married partner? Hopefully, you don't think she'll live to regret that, and you as a parent will do that to your child? Imagine if someone had done that to you. I'm sorry, if you're pro-transing kids, you're an abuser. You're a child abuser. It's as simple as that. And Nikki Haley absolutely lied about it. The video is out there. All right. Now, let's go to the next video, por favor, Gabe.
For China, though, I mean, this is rich, because when she was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 ranked governor of bringing the CCP into her state. She wrote a love letter to the Chinese ambassador saying how great a friend China is. You can look at it. We put it on our website, rondesantis.com. There's also a video of her as governor standing in front of a Chinese flag with a Chinese business saying that she now works for them, talking about this Chinese company. So she's been very weak on China. Now, here's the problem. The rhetoric is different, but her donors, these Wall Street liberal donors, they make money in China. They are not going to let her be tough on China, and she will cave to the donors. She will not stand up for you.
15 seconds, Ambassador.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him and now they support me. The second thing is he has a company, a Chinese company, UGAS, that he just did a rally there last year. They have given you $340,000 in campaign donations
American company
between them and their employees. They are tied to the Communist
company.
Chinese Party. Jinko Solar is another one. They went and expanded. You gave $2 million in subsidies.
I banned China from buying land in the state of
and
Florida.
The Department of
I
Homeland
ejected the Confucius Institute. Nikki Haley brought Confucius Institutes to the universities in South Carolina.
That is not true.
I ejected them. So I have a record of standing up and do what's right. And here's the thing.
You have a record of lying.
She's trying to say things like that. Even the liberal media groups that usually if I say the sky is blue, they'll fact check me and say that's wrong. They looked at her charges. They said it was totally false, that they could not find one instance of me recruiting a Chinese business coming to Florida. You know why? Because we never recruited any Chinese businesses to the state of Florida.
Okay, so this is how he deflated her. And the same with Vivek Ramaswamy. They kept coming with the receipts. Now, this is where I wish DeSantis would take some lessons from Vivek Ramaswamy. He was like, I signed it, you killed it. He moved on. He should have said, I signed the bill, you killed the bill. He maybe repeated himself. I signed the bill with some emphasis. You killed the bill. He doesn't have great stage presence. He's gotten much better over the time that he's been running. But anyway, I think if Vivek would have had that line, he would have sliced her and diced her. Ultimately, DeSantis did. But I mean, it just left her deflated. Hits like that. She's talking about what she would do. She didn't do it while she was in the governor's mansion in South Carolina. And she's lying about a governor who did do it, my governor in Florida. All right, Nikki Haley. Or the next video, por favor, Gabe.
Don't know that slippery slope, what rights are going to be taken away next, and what's going to be focused on.
As a parent, you do not have the right to abuse your kids. This is cutting off their genitals. This is mutilating these minors. These are irreversible procedures, and this is something that other countries in Europe, like Sweden, once they started doing it, they saw it did incalculable damage. They've shut it down. I signed legislation in Florida banning the mutilation of minors because it is wrong. We cannot allow this to happen in this country. And I know Chris disagrees with me, and I think he has an honest position. Nikki disagrees with me. She opposes the bill that we did to ban that. She said law shouldn't get involved with it. You said the law shouldn't get involved with it. She also, though, I think, and this flows from what she did as governor of South Carolina, they had a bill to try to say that men shouldn't go into girls' bathrooms. And she killed that bill, and she bragged that she killed that bill. Even to this day, she bragged that. I don't think men should be going into little girls' bathrooms. I think it's wrong, and I think we have every right to protect them from that.
Sliced and diced. Nikki Haley, this is what I don't like, too. She's soft, she's subtle, but she lies. Listen, she's a politician. She's a politician, and she's proven to be an effective politician. I thought she was a great performer. I think I tweeted out or X'd out as much at the very beginning of the debate, and then I just watched her fade. She is a great performer, but she's a performer. I'm sorry. Would I take her over a a Joe Biden or a Gavin Newsom? I would, because I think the train to communism moves a little more slowly, and hopefully we conservatives and constitutionalists can get in there and slow it down and eventually stop it. But do I want her? No. Now, here's the corporatist, Nikki Haley, caught on camera. Straight up. We have, before you watch this video, we have an open borders crisis. And this chick is talking about bringing merit-based workers to fill jobs in corporations. We can't get Americans to do that? We shouldn't have a moratorium? We shouldn't talk about sealing the borders before she says this? Roll the clip, and I want you, for those of you that are watching on YouTube and Rumble, I want you to watch the reaction of the gentleman on the left with that horseshoe mustache. And by the way, this show is brought to you by MyPillow.com. Go to the radio podcast square at the top of the page and enter my name, Carl. Christmas is coming up soon. They got deals that are 50, 60% off, over in some cases. MyPillow.com, promo code Carl. Listen, if you're struggling with sleep, get a MyPillow, MyPillow 2.0. They've got mattress toppers. They've got Giza Dream Sheets. You name it. They've even got stuff for pets, dog beds, so on, etc. They got the My Slippers. They got bath towels. They got robes. I don't use any other towels. I'm not kidding you. I love the MyPillow towels. All right, so MyPillow.com, Radio Podcast Square. Enter my name, Carl, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Again, 800-858-0263. Tell them Carl sent you. All right, here's Nikki Haley at a town hall in New Hampshire. And by the way, let me just say this about this. I can't stand that everybody's talking about Nikki Haley's polls rising, and she's rising so quickly. And mostly they're talking about New Hampshire. You understand that's an open primary state, right? That is an open primary state. It's a very secular state, even though they do okay with the Second Amendment, which is weird to me. But anyway, it's an open primary state, so Democrats can determine basically who the candidate is, and independents as well inside of New Hampshire. So listen, I love you if you're in New Hampshire, but I do believe that our primaries needs to be closed. Republicans only, even if they're more moderate, Republicans only should be voting for our candidates. Without any further ado, here's Nikki Haley.
When it comes to legal immigration, it's a broken system. It shouldn't take someone 10 years to become a citizen. But what we need to do is reform it. So for too long, Republican and Democrat presidents dealt with immigration based on a quota. We'll take X number this year, we'll take X number next year. The debate is on the number. It's the wrong way to look at it. We need to do it based on merit. We need to go to our industries and say, what do you need that you don't have? So think agriculture, think tourism, think tech. We want the talent that's going to make us better. Then you bring people in that can fill those needs.
So fill the needs of the corporations. These major corporations in the United States, many of these corporations that stayed open while the small mom and pop shops were closed during the lockdowns, during the COVID lockdowns. Yeah, that's Nikki Haley for you. No, thank you. No, thank you. I mean, this is a lady that's a corporatist. This is a lady that doesn't defend children, in my opinion, not well enough. This is a lady that's obviously for mass immigration. And this is her caught in a lie. At least in the primary, I'm a never Nikki Haley person. I think this lady is pulling the wool over too many people's eyes. That's why I appreciate what Vivek Ramaswamy did and DeSantis in this last debate. Now, I know I say I don't think Vivek is needed anymore, frankly, but nonetheless, I appreciate his skills and his ability to be able to take down Nikki Haley and put her on the defense. So I forget what this one is about. This is on the trans issue. This is what she denied saying on stage. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. She was on CBS News, Por favor, Gabe.
Madam Ambassador, another question is what care should be on the table when a 12-year-old child in this country assigned female at birth says, actually, I feel more comfortable living as a boy. What should the law allow the response to be?
Well, I think the law should stay out of it, and I think parents should handle it.
The law should stay out of it. The parents should handle it. You heard DeSantis on the stage that it is never right. It should not be legally right. It's certainly not morally right to abuse your children. A child whose brain isn't even fully developed until they're in their mid-20s, to chop off their private body parts and say, I'm doing the best for them. No, you're a crappy parent. You're a crappy parent. And Nikki Haley didn't speak up to that. Do we have any more, Gabe, or is that it? You let me know. 4 more? Okay, all right. Well, let's see. Okay, let's see what we have. One more. This is Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's see what he has to say.
We're marching towards fascism under Biden. Jack Smith has subpoenaed every last retweet that someone has issued from Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom. That is fascism. And she should come nowhere near the levers of power, let alone the White House.
I'm sorry. This was a very important point, and it sickens me that he got booed for it. I'm not a fan of Vivek. I appreciate him bringing up that issue. You have a Republican candidate, supposedly the Party of Freedom, talking about a surveillance state inside of the United States. You understand that? Being able to censor people. That's how ESG could be ushered in. And he got booed for that? Guys, that's crazy. That proves to me that we are not learning our civics properly in our school system. Another thing I forgot to get the video for, you actually had, Ron DeSantis had to do two things that he needed to talk about. And I'm glad Tom Fitton too. I should have brought in that video. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Ron DeSantis actually spoke out against the weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI. He should have done it a long time ago. It was about damn time. He offered it on his website. I knew that he would do it, but the fact that he wasn't speaking out and saying that clearly really bothered me. He finally did it in this debate. He also talked about the central bank digital currency, as did Vivek Ramaswamy. These are very important points. So we don't want a fascist takeover of the United States. And sadly, this is what concerns me about Nikki Haley. Fascism by the Biden administration is coming on strong. By her, it will come by subtly. And they don't even understand that she's doing it. All right, made my case. Anyway, guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Again, I apologize that this is a little late. I wanted to make sure that I brought it to you because there are increasing calls for both Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy to get out of the race. I think those calls are valid. However, I will concede we the people have the final say. People get to have the final say, right? So all right, that's where I am. I am a we the people person, but there are increasing calls for them to drop out. They're not making any headway. As a matter of fact, they're losing ground. And I just think Christie is in for, I don't know what, for himself. I think it's pure ego at this point in time. So anyway, I appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.